participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to deliver the keynote address. At the outset, I would like to recognize the co-sponsors of this timely conference. You can see all the logos in the room, but in particular, I want to single out Siam Intelligence Unit, APCSS alumni, ISIS, and its American Studies program. Many thanks to all the organizers and sponsors for the hard work you have put into this worthwhile effort. This conference addresses the most pressing issue of our times in view of Asia's dynamic rise and America's role in the Asia's future. When we see a geographical reference to the Pacific, the role of the United States becomes implicit. The same goes for Australia, New Zealand, and other nations that contiguous to the Pacific Ocean. So Asia-Pacific in this conference is conceptualized as regional security in broad terms. That stretches across and straddles both giants of global affairs, namely China and the United States. Within the sphere between Beijing and Washington, we have all sorts of security challenges that must be addressed and managed in the years ahead. By including the role of the United States, it appears to me that the conference organizers are suggesting that Washington's role is instrumental and indispensable in Asian security. Over the past 2 decades, the security environment in Asia is characterized by change and continuity. It used to be that the 3 leading regional hotspots were the Korean Peninsula, the Taiwan Strait, and the South China Sea. Times have changed. Now, China and Taiwan are enjoying closest relations since their split in 1949. Thanks to immense economic interdependence and the Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement, the FTA that brings them closer. The Korean Peninsula, of course, is still a leading security concern for the region and beyond. And North Korea's recent and ongoing posturing over its nuclear quest and foreign policy belligerence do not bode well. However, it remains to be seen whether North Korea's rhetoric and brinkmanship will be followed by action. It is possible that what we are seeing from North Korea is a function of domestic regime challenges. Meanwhile, the South China Sea has gone full circle since the early 1990s. I remember the time when I became a 2-star general in charge of the Strategic Studies Institute under the National Defense Studies Institute under the Supreme Command. My job was doing the same thing, similar things, what we were doing today. Conference, both as participants and organizers. It's very useful and rewarding experience. At that time, there was rising tension between China and ASEAN claimants on the Spratly and the Paracel Island chains. Back then, remember that ASEAN did not yet have 10 members, but only 6, because the CLMV countries, which are Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, joined later in the 1990s. As ASEAN expanded, the South China Sea became relatively more peaceful and stable due to China's charm offensive from the mid-1990s. Beijing also play a positive role in the regional financial crisis that began in Thailand in 1997 and joined the ASEAN Plus 3 initiative. By 2002, China and ASEAN agreed to abide by the rules known as the Declaration on the Code of Conduct, which were to be drawn up later. Unfortunately, over the past few years, tension has returned in ASEAN-China relations over the South China Sea. Efforts were underway to ensure rules in the Code of Conduct are drafted in a way that will be acceptable to Beijing and ASEAN members. I do hope ASEAN and China can come to terms because it is so important for regional peace and stability. In addition to these well-known security issues, non-traditional security has received more attention. Our non-traditional security agenda in the region is getting longer and longer, from disaster relief and transnational crime to pandemics and food and health security. The non-traditional security agenda is fertile for cooperation between Asia-Pacific nations from Washington to Beijing and all in between. The rising prosperity and security stakes in Asia are so promising and immense that the United States under President Barack Obama has reoriented its security and foreign policy strategy towards Asia. In the first Obama administration, we heard and saw the so-called Asian pivot and rebalancing of American priorities and resources toward Asia. That strategy was carried out on the ground by a deft team led by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The first Obama administration's foreign policy drive was evidently underpinned by the rebalancing strategy. Now, we are in the second Obama administration, led in foreign policy by a new secretary, Senator John Kerry. It remains to be seen whether and to what extent Obama 2 will be like Obama 1, where Asia is concerned. Initially, it seems the focus has returned to the Middle East and Europe, but it is too early to tell. Certainly, for us in ASEAN, America's role in our regional security environment is essential. We have high hopes for America's rebalancing to be constructive and enabling for regional peace and stability in our neighborhood. In conclusion, let me thank the organizers again and to thank all of you in the audience for joining us. I wish you a productive and insightful today. And I look forward to learn about the findings and conclusions of the conference. Thank you.